we're going to have a look at the different uses you can give to passive sentences when you use the so-called impersonal construction or the personal one. If you have an active sentence like people believe, then this is what they believe. For example, that the Beatles are the best band ever. So you have a subject, this is a verb, and then this is the object that is somehow going to be modified. Then, if you want to emphasize this object here, if this is what really matters to you, instead of starting with people, which is irrelevant, doesn't give much information. So what you do in English typically is you put at the very beginning of a sentence what's interesting. So you have two possibilities. One, to have one of these so-called impersonal passive sentences and start with just an empty it. It means nothing. So you start it, then the verb in the passive and making the concord with the subject, it is believed. And then the second part of a sentence is going to remain the same, that the Beatles are the best band ever. If, however, what you want to emphasize is the subject of the second part, I mean, you really want to talk about the Beatles, not about people. So you could start with the subject, the Beatles, then this verb here in the passive, but making the concord with the subject here because it's a plural verb. So the Beatles are believed. And then, because somehow we have broken this structure here, what you use is an infinitive to be the best band ever. Bear in mind that you can't say people are believed too. In this case, no. People think something. People believe something. That's the active sentence. And both of these are passive sentences. The difference between using one and the other, probably, as I said, if you want to emphasize this is what you put at the very beginning of a sentence. The Beatles, this is what's interesting, not people or something. If, however, you're writing an academic piece of writing, academic essay, something which might be a bit more formal, or if you need to be somehow aseptic and scientific, then you could use this one. This is much more frequent. And as I say, scientific, cold, academic writing. If I want to be 100% accurate, probably. Okay, for some people, for me included, the Beatles are still the best band ever. Some people might argue that because they are not a band anymore, I should use the verb in the past. So I should say, people believe now that the Beatles were the best band ever. Fair enough. So if this happens, if what you have in here, if you have a verb in the present, for instance, but the second verb is in the past or the present perfect or the past perfect, in any case, a tense that happened before the actual verb believe, claim, suppose, whatever. If this happened before this, what you need to say could be it is believed, and then the rest remains the same. Or if you're making this personal construction, you start with the Beatles. Because this verb is in the present, okay, this verb in the present, but passive, because you're going to say something about these people here. But then the infinitive you're going to use here is not going to be the verb to be, but to indicate that this action happened before this one here, you will say, the Beatles are believed to have been the best band ever. And so using this perfect infinitive, what you're saying is that this action happened first and then this action is happening now or later anyway.